Rhaenyra Targaryen finally sits the Iron Throne, and this episode spends its entire runtime stripping her of everything the chair was supposed to come with. The gold is gone, the faith will not anoint her, and the royal hostage Daemon marches home in the opening scene, detonates into the season's cruelest trick in the final 5 minutes. Rhaenyra Triumphant is the payoff HBO's biggest series, has spent 3 seasons promising, and it plays like a funeral. The show is not asking whether she won, that question is settled. It is asking something colder, the thing every scene in this hour is quietly measuring. Is power already breaking Rhaenyra? Start with the cold open, because the ending is hiding inside it. Daemon Targaryen stands alone in a field with dragons at his back while Lord Ormond Hightower does the arithmetic of dragonfire, kneels in the grass, and pledges fealty to Rhaenyra the Queen in exchange for the road home. Then Daemon collects one last prize, Ormond's young ward Daeron Targaryen, Rhaenyra's own half-brother, because leaving one of Aegon's heirs loose in the Reach with a dragon would be an oversight. "Be brave, young prince," the boy is told as he is handed over, and you should hold that line in your head because the episode detonates it later. Back in the Red Keep, Rhaenyra walks halls, she says, are thick with ghosts, remembering herself as a child playing tunes for her father. Her mission statement as queen arrives in her first quiet scene. "I must justify my father's faith in me, rule as he would have wished. Not rule as the war demands, rule as Viserys would have wished. A dead man's standard for a kingdom he never had to hold by force." When the silent hostage is brought before her, she introduces herself with a line built for a rewatch: "We've not met." She reads the boy's silence as defiance, confines him to a chamber, and the voices around her immediately say, the quiet part, "He is a claimant to the throne. You are going to have to kill him." Daemon wanted to incinerate the Hydar army where it stood, and the episode never lets you forget that her mercy was a choice. Then her stewards open the books, and the throne she bled for turns out to be furniture. The crown's wealth is gone, divided and smuggled out of the city by Tywin Lannister before she ever landed, with enough left to run her court for a week or 2. Rhaenyra spent her entire life preparing to inherit her father's peaceful, prosperous realm, and what she actually inherits is a smoldering ruin stripped of its resources and its dignity. The trail of the gold is a dark joke at her expense. Tywin is presumed drowned after the gullet, and the one man he would have confided in, Jasper Ironrod Wild, went to the block in her own purge last week. She executed her way out of the answer. She wants a proper coronation to shore up her legitimacy. It is a matter of legitimacy, she insists, but Corlys warns that pageantry over a starving city will read as an insult, so the crowning is shelved and the great houses are told their queen demands tribute instead. Asked why she does not simply summon her small council from Dragonstone, she refuses. They betrayed her in their silence when Jace flew to his death, and she is done with them. Mark that, because the missing council everyone pities her for is a wound she is choosing to keep open. Meanwhile, the Red Keep slides into farce. Rats have eaten the candle stores because Aegon hanged every rat catcher in the city. Tallow must be requisitioned. Wine has tripled in price, and no one at all controls the royal purse. So she goes to the one prisoner who might know where the gold went, and the reunion with Alicent Hightower curdles instantly. Alicent swears the plot was kept from her, then lands the episode's cruelest counterpunch: "You slew my father without ceremony. Did it make you feel better about losing Jace?" But watch what Alicent does next, because it is the smartest political move anyone makes all hour. No one knows what Aegon looks like now, so declare him dead, and if Larys Strong ever raises him up, dismiss him as an impostor. Rhaenyra takes her prisoner's advice, proclaims Aegon dead in his own castle, and summons her son Joffrey home to be raised as heir, a queen manufacturing reality by decree because she cannot locate the real thing. The faith slams the next door. The High Septon anointed Aegon months ago, and without remains, without the Silent Sisters summoned, he will not unsay it for her. Then he goes after the family brand itself. Dragons are profane magic. They destroy, but they do not create, and no good can come of them. He is not refusing a ceremony. He is telling a Targaryen queen that the source of her power is the reason she can never be holy, and his parting advice, do not make an enemy of the faith, is a threat wearing a blessing's clothes. Her body files its own report. While being dressed to meet the small folk, she realizes she is bleeding, curses, and sits the Iron Throne anyway, sipping a draught for the cramps between petitions. The petitions are brutal in their smallness. A weaver needs 500 golden dragons because dragons ate the sheep, a butcher has no meat because the hunters were drafted as archers, and a woman named Sylvie asks for justice against the nobles who hoarded food while the poor starved. Her advisors split on cue. Corlys hears bellyachers stirring up rebellion, while Mysaria, who was not born to her seat at that table, hears the plain truth. Stuck, Rhaenyra reaches for the sane dead man again, asks what her father would do, and lands on a banquet. It becomes the best thing she does all episode. She serves the assembled nobles the same scraps the common folk ate through the blockade, then informs them mid-recoil that her gold cloaks are searching their storehouses at that very moment, because what the crown demands is not plunder but a duty. The small folk cheer her in the streets as she hands out the seized food, and Mysaria names the real transaction. Let the Septon deny you. This will be your anointing. Only Sir Torrhen Manderly, smiling into his cup, says what nobody else will. A hand well played, and one that may even make people forget it was her own blockade that made bread scarce in the first place. Even her best day as queen is alone taken out against a famine she helped cause. Now the wound the episode is really about. At a private dinner, Corlys Velaryon says aloud what the realm long guessed. Alan and Adam of Hull are his sons, born of a common shipwright, unclaimed for a lifetime because, in his own words, he was ashamed. He asks his queen for a single favor in exchange for everything he has given her. Legitimize them, let them be Velaryons, name Alan his heir, for without them his line is ended and his name erased. Rhaenyra offers warm words about grief and new ways forward and never says yes. At the knighting, the Dodge hardens into policy. Ulf tries to style himself Targaryen and is flatly refused. Hugh becomes the Hammer, and Adam is dubbed Sir Adam of Hull, conspicuously not Velaryon. Corlys catches her in a corridor, an old man whose castle lies in ashes, who gave her cause his fleets, his blood, and his wife, and who has asked no favor in return but this one, and she tells him she is sorry, but in this moment she cannot do as he asks. Her reasoning is naked self-preservation. Her reign has just begun, and she cannot be seen raising up those born outside of noble troth. So the sea snake stops being polite. He counts it out for her. Joffrey is a bastard. Lucerys, whom he accepted as his own heir, was a bastard, and Jacaerys lived and died a bastard. Then the sentence she has no answer for. Say aloud to me the reason your children deserve what mine are denied. She says nothing, because there is nothing, and the show lets the silence do the sentencing. Remember, the last man who called her sons bastards to her face was Vaemond Velaryon, and Daemon took the top of his head off in front of the entire court. She has even used the same excuse twice in 1 hour. It is a matter of legitimacy. Once for a crown she cannot afford, and once against the man she cannot afford to lose. And Corlys hands her back the very word he used on himself at dinner. You are ashamed. The ending then plays every setup in order, starting with the mercy her father would have chosen. Daeron had no part in his brother's treachery, so instead of the block he will take the black, shipped north to the wall, alive but erased. Rhaenyra grants Alicent a farewell with the boy, and Alicent admits she has seen Daeron once in 5 years and hardly knows him. Then she takes one look and ends the episode's longest con on the spot. You don't know this boy. He is not Daeron. The hostage cracks open, and the truth is worse than the lie. Lord Ormond Hightower bleached a merchant's son's hair, ordered him to play the prince even if the queen burned him with dragons, and promised to hang the boy's real mother if he spoke a single word. Every scene Rhaenyra played opposite him. The interrogation, the sentencing, the mercy was performed at a decoy, which means the knee Ormond bent in the opening scene was a lie told with his whole body. For the book readers, Fire and Blood is stitched from 3 contradictory chronicles, Septon Eustace, Maester Munkun, and the fool mushroom, and not one of them breathes a word about a false Daron. The show invented this move outright, so nobody watching knows where it lands. "What game does he play?" Rhaenyra asks, and the answer reaches her gate before the scene goes cold. A wounded dragon keeper brings word that the Hydar host that knelt and marched for home has seized Tumbleton and taken its people hostage, a town's worth of innocents stacked between an army and her dragons. The knife was sharpened an hour earlier because Tumbleton is exactly where the Hammer's wife went when the city had nothing left for her. Rhaenyra ends her triumph watching the Hydar colors burn in her own courtyard, on her own order, firelight on her face, a war she was told was won, reigniting behind her back. So weigh the 3 ways to read her, and start with the one carrying the most on-screen evidence. She is not failing, she is being strangled by circumstance, an empty treasury, a hostile faith, no counsel, and an enemy who just weaponized her clemency, every change shown in plain sight. But that reading falls 1 inch short, because the episode also shows her forging links herself. She refused to recall her own counsel out of grief, and she chose the pardon over Daemon's fire. The loudest reading is also the least proven. Daemon, who wanted the high towers incinerated, who calls her food campaign a mere gesture, and who stands on a balcony telling her to stop scrabbling for gold and take the world. Dorne, Essos, Yeti stylus gods, Rhaenyra. Nothing on screen shows her following him into that fantasy. Yet, this is speculation about where the season is steering, but the image is already doing its work. While the queen requisitions tallow to keep the candles lit, her husband is drafting their promotion to living gods. Which leaves the reading the hour itself argues, never in dialogue but in every scene. Power is not corrupting Rhaenyra, it is revealing her. A queen assembled from Viserys ideals, governing by the question of what her father would do, inside a world that, as Alicent tells her, her father built only for himself, and neither of them has ever set foot there. And what it is revealing has already curdled into the thing she confesses to Mysaria in the dark. "I feel no grief. I feel nothing. There is rage." When Rhaenyra took the city, the verdict here was that she had traded the moral high ground for the throne, and this episode is the receipt. Rhaenyra has the throne, but none of the power it promised. No gold, no crown, no counsel, and a sea snake demanding to know why her children deserve what his are denied. That is not the story of a woman being corrupted. Corruption would at least mean the throne was turning her into something that can survive it. This is Martin's older, crueler rule. Power does not corrupt his characters, it reveals them, and what it reveals in Rhaenyra is her father's daughter, holding a dead man's ideals like a shield in a knife fight. Alicent told her the truth in the quietest scene of the hour. You may not rule and remain yourself. There is in you a door that must shut. Rhaenyra disputes it, and everything from the empty vault to the fake prince under her roof says the dispute is already lost, the door stands open, and it is bleeding her dry. So, is Rhaenyra fit to rule? If ruling means remaining Viserys' daughter, she is the most fit person in Westeros, and that is exactly what the throne is breaking. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss our deep dive into the latest secrets from the next episode. Comment below, was Rhaenyra right to refuse Corlys and deny his sons the Velaryon name when her own children are bastards too?